Hi, my name is Caesar, and I'll be refuting our opponent's claim, proposition about the United States supporting and giving subsidies to implement the development of new nuclear plants or nuclear energy. My opponent claimed that nuclear energy is the best and the cleanest type of energy that we can use, and he also said that there are positive environmental impacts, and he mentioned their costs. Well, to begin with, nuclear energy is not the best and not the cleanest way to get our energy from. In fact, it causes a lot of pollution. He mentioned that fossil fuels have a high amount of greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide, which cause global warming, but so does nuclear energy. Nuclear energy, the gaseous emissions from a nuclear power plant can be of different forms and intensities. Nuclear power plants use diesel generators, which as a means for backup electric power, just in case from the electricity that the plant develops itself is not there readily available. Most are required to run tests of these systems for once a month, which means that these diesel generators produce a lot of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. These gases primarily consist of carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, nitrous oxides, and sulfur dioxides. Apart from greenhouse gases, exhaust gases from buildings containing radioactive processes is radioactive in nature. In addition, in plants with boiling water reactors, the air ejector exhaust is radioactive as well. Such exhausts are passed through delay pipes, storage tanks, and hydrogen recombines before released into the environment to ensure that radiation levels are in accordance to regulations. These radioactive exhausts from nuclear power plants are also known to cause skin problems of several kinds. And that was said by the impact of nuclear power plants, an article written by the impact of nuclear power plants. My opponent also mentioned that this was the best way, but there are other cleaner ways to produce energy, such as wind turbines and PV panels. And PV panels are just your basic solar panels, which gain the solar energy from the sun and convert it into usable energy and electricity to use to power our homes and anything else, which is actually a lot, and it is a renewable source. And nuclear energy is not a renewable source for energy, such as that nuclear energy requires the chemicals of uranium and plutonium to be able to create the nuclear energy, because in nuclear energy you need a process called fission, where these chemicals create a sort of like heat, and from that heat, that thermal energy, they're able to extract the energy from it. And uranium is actually not readily available. Unlike fossil fuels, which are available to most of the countries, uranium is a very scarce resource and exists in only few of the countries. Permissions of several international authorities are required before someone can even have the thought of building a nuclear power plant. Therefore, him stating that fossil fuels that we have to import many of our fossil fuels, and we have to import a lot of the uranium that is needed to be used for nuclear power plants. And also, just as fossil fuels are scarce, so is uranium. It's actually probably more scarce than a fossil fuel. The proposition mentions that they want the country to actually to subsidize or be able to support nuclear energy, and the country already does that, and there are really high costs with doing that. The country subsidized the U.S. Energy Information Administration published an analysis of U.S. government energy subsidies and R&D support in 2007, totaling $16.6 billion, double the 1999 level. Of this, $6.75 billion was related to electricity production, and $6.0 billion of this was split between R&D and subsidies. Apart from transmission and distribution, which is the $875 million, the balance was $1.55 billion for R&D in anticipation of future benefits, and $3.55 billion in subsidies for present production. The $1.55 billion dollars for R&D comprised $922 million for nuclear energy, $522 million for coal, and $100 million for renewables. For these, and by this means that nuclear energy requires the most money to be able to be subsidized by $922 million, which is almost $400, which is almost the double needed for coal, the money needed for coal. He says that currently there are issues, that the significance of the use implementing nuclear energy is that the current issues that are faced by the present methods of use of energy, which impact the environment. But nuclear energy as well impacts the environment a lot, more than you might think. Nuclear plants require a lot of land. Perhaps the impact which is easiest to notice is the effect on the environment, particularly in terms of flora and fauna, which are the animals and the plants of a certain area. To start with, the setting up of a nuclear plant requires a large area. These plants are extremely massive. Preferably, they want the site of this nuclear plant to be by a large body of water. This is usually accompanied with clearing of forest, which disturbs the natural habitat of several creatures and gradually upsets the ecological balance of the region. Apart from this, studies have shown that due to the heat rejected into the water bodies, there have been significant drops in the populations of several species of fish in certain regions of the U.S. Another significant effect is the increased amount of sulfur dioxide in the air, which causes acid rain to form, which then leads to contamination of surface water bodies of the region, reduction of productivity of the soil, and has several other negative effects on the region's vegetation and human health. As mentioned, that these effects cause acid rain, and that acid rain contains harsh heavy metals and chemicals, which can lead into our crop supplies. So eventually we are consuming those harmful chemicals and pollutants that are indirectly through our crops that absorb the water, the rain, the acid rain from these nuclear power plants. Therefore, we should not implement new subsidies or new programs to the development of nuclear power plants.